Who would have known back in the day when we were calling out scenario number one for the 2 hour higher low that this run would be able to take you to new all-time highs, because that was on the table. 618 this month was shown to us, and what a move to the upside. We've been looking for upside here, looking for upside here, and as we get up to these type of levels, we start to look for reversal or a change in the narrative, and you're starting to see people start to throw risk out of the window and say, wow, we just broke to new all-time highs. I am even hearing some people shout out to the world, buy no matter what. It doesn't matter what the stock looks like. And that's usually when we start to find our way to a top. Now we have built up this area and seen a solid pullback, so we can extend this for a little bit of time. And that's something we're going to discuss in today's video as we get into some technical analysis for the SPY and the Qs. Going to hop through a few stocks to pay attention to for pullbacks and things like that. And then we're just going to go into volatility. So hopefully if you're a Patreon member, you are logging in today. Later on today, we will post those updated weekly expected moves. The daily expected moves will be here on your charts on YouTube. And we'll be updating the monthly expected moves as well. So if you'd like to join Patreon, it's a great time to do it. We're even doing a either live private stream tonight or some kind of video breaking down all of the weekly expected moves. But without further ado, if you don't want to join, that's perfectly fine. Stick around right here on YouTube, because we're going to just do what? Let's get into it. So we know overall that everyone is saying buy no matter what. There are people out there shouting out, hey, buy no matter what, this can take off. And we've talked about the fact that July, and a lot of people bringing up seasonality and things like that now, July can be a good time. And when you see a breakout, you could look for that continuation. Okay, so this isn't to say like this has to stop right now, but it is saying that we should be watching out in case reversal signals are there. And I think that we're close to a top. So I am in control of my money. I don't need to risk money in a time where I think that we could be topping out in the next week or so. From this standpoint, you probably want some weekly expected moves, because this is going to be very, very helpful for this week. The purple lines are always your weekly expected moves. That is your 68% zone. This is calculated. I calculate it myself using the options data. And you see it's a decently small range. We have 624.28 to the upside and 605.54 to the downside. Notice that we are above that 618. We do have the availability to see some kind of move outside of the monthly to then possibly pull back soon. So we're going to go into the 30-minute chart to start off here, just because the 30-minute chart looks very interesting. We were able to see some kind of sell-off, break some lows and things like that, but then we're still in positive territory. We don't necessarily have divergence or anything like that. So maybe tomorrow we need to pay attention to a daily expected move to the upside. We like to talk about both sides, so you'll probably hear me talk about a few things today. 618.23, your daily expected moves are always in red. That is your 68% zone for Monday, 32% chance to close outside of that zone. Same things remain true for the weekly expected move if you are new. 611.59 to the downside. So these are interesting things, because we head down to this type of level. We don't necessarily have divergence on the RSI, but we do have it on the MACD. So that's telling us there is a little bit of weakness here, and maybe it causes some kind of pullback. But expecting a full reversal from signals like that, it can happen. We've seen it happen plenty of times, but I like to just take it with a grain of salt. If you're wondering why I mention, like, if it's only on MACD and not RSI, I like them to be at the same time. When they're at the same time, for me, it makes the confidence in the trade better. I think it makes the momentum much clearer to see everything is in tandem here. So that's just a little side note. But you have bought yourself time by making this big of a move on the RSI. So if we wanted to, even early Monday morning, we could see this reaction to that monthly expected move and daily expected move. Then we actually start to pull back on the 2-hour chart. So we're actually going to look for a divergence here if that is possible. That is definitely possible with the positioning of the MACD. And if it scales up dramatically, well, then you just rose that floor and the timeline's going to extend. Okay, so I'll try to keep you updated on if the timeline is extending. Right now, it seems to have extended to about July 9th. What does this mean? So if we go make that divergence and then we pull it back, it's still this. The most probable thing to see here is some kind of like move that eventually just 2-hour pulls back. Then we see the 2-hour head to the upside, maybe going into July, right? Into July. That way we close back in the monthly expected moves. We don't close out here, but instead we pull back into these areas, and then we turn up into positive territory. and then we're able to curl down because the 2-hour has overextended, but it has gotten rid of all of the divergences. So it's most likely going to make a divergence here. So pretty much this week, what are you looking for? If you're looking for some kind of top and you're going to see some kind of topping signal, you're going to see a 2-hour divergence or some kind of 2-hour lower high. So those are the two things we should really be like looking for this week. If we don't see those and we see it rise up first, well, we just rose that floor, right? We want to treat this like it can continue, but at the same time, my inclination is that something like this will not happen. My inclination is we are going to possibly see that upside move on Monday. We are going to start to pull back into potentially Wednesday of this week, and then we are going to ramp up into July 9th, where I see more risk going into July 9th and that expiration that week. So we will be watching this very carefully. This is the information that I am really paying attention to, and I just hope it helps you out. So let's go look at the Qs. Now, if you needed the daily levels that we're watching for the daily pullback, you can look at yesterday's video. We put out a macro video yesterday if you would like to take a look at it. But the 2-hour scale for the Qs is in the same boat, so we can do this a little bit quicker. Weekly expected moves, 558.28 to the upside, 537.90 to the downside. Wouldn't it be interesting if the 2-hour flashed down to this type of area and then just bounced up by the end of the month to land in those monthly expected moves, bam, for a couple of days, into a boom for a few days, into a possible bust is possible at this point. Watching for July 9th, you're probably hearing me shout that out a lot. That is because the 90-day pause is lifted on July 9th. So something we can look for from the 2-hour is just the 2-hour to curl down, and then the 2-hour to curl back up into positive territory, and that would be a pretty damn probable scenario because of that monthly expected move. But the 30-minute can do what the 30-minute wants to do, and the 30-minute was able to wipe out divergence on the RSI, on the RSI, but it's keeping it on the MACD. Sorry about that little pop-up. It is keeping it on the MACD, though. So what we're noticing is this can cause an aggressive pullback in some way, but sometimes the 30-minute can just whip back up. So if the 30-minute wants to make divergence on the RSI at the same time as the MACD, then we could see upside on Monday to a daily expected move of 551.81, where we see that 550 to 551 as resistance, and then we're actually able to get that 2-hour pullback. Then the 2-hour is able to break through, and we're able to climb to the upside into the next week. I think this would be a very interesting way for the market to behave if you wanted the downside daily expected move 544.37. And note that if you would like to join back, if you would like to subscribe to get the updated monthly expected move, notice we are at them. You tag them very, very often for the monthly expected move. It is great to give you that direction and say, hey, when do I need to take my foot off the gas? If you would like that, we will be updating it completely for free here on YouTube for the SPY and the Qs in just a couple of days once the month does end. So subscribe and join us because we give those out for free here on YouTube, and it will help you. It genuinely, that is something that will help any strategy. For the Qs, we're just looking at this 30-minute. It looks like we could make some kind of upward move, or we could just start to pull down right now. Either way, this seems to be the more probable situation that's going to take place. If we want to extend that for a moment, we just need to pay attention if that overextends, right? This is the benefit of being patient. I don't have to sit back and just like freak out about every single move and try to trade it. I can say, hey, I know the environment I'm looking at right now. I know that this is very high up and a pullback is where I want to buy it. Something like this if we're going to curl up again, right? Something like this if we're going to curl up again. And I don't see that right now. Instead, it looks like we are in one of these type of moments where it will pull back. So I don't necessarily want to be making bullish decisions here, but it is squeezing, so bearish decisions are difficult as well. It's perfectly fine to point those things out and say, hey, I am fine with enjoying my 4th of July and just hanging out and watching how this moves, and then jumping back in the game when it seems very obvious. So for the Qs and the SPY, looks like a 2-hour pullback into another 2-hour upside move, potentially into July 9th, will be what we are looking for. So let's hop into a few stocks. Apple's been consolidating and consolidating and consolidating here, but it keeps rejecting and getting lower highs potentially here for this move right here. And that's not necessarily a good thing. So right now, Apple is saying, I'm down until I cross back up. And that's just the unfortunate thing for Apple. Now, this never got overbought. So if the 2 hour is able to climb up here and you're able to confirm above all this, it would say that it wants to go to a weekly expected move. And that's what we talk about on Patreon. In tonight's video, we are going to talk thoroughly about the individual stocks with the weekly expected moves up and the monthly expected moves, so we can see what is going to take place or some probable scenarios there. So something here is if the 2 hour can cross up, you look for the weekly expected move, but the 30-minute has rolled and is by negative territory. So if you keep making these new lows, you are even more likely to do what? Just keep going down on the 2 hour. Unfortunately, you can see this break down as we have rolled. We have come down to these areas. We've broken the 5. We've rolled up, made that lower high. So if this can't catch itself, makes a new low, we might be going all the way down to 196.50, but we could see that reaction up first, so we'll be paying attention. If we go look over at something like Tesla, we can see what's most probable here. Do you guys remember last week what were we talking about was the most probable scenario for Tesla? Tesla was going to get to 350, and then we were going to see it pull back, make a divergence, or give us a what? A lower high. And now you can kind of see that structure for a lower high. We haven't broken the zone, so that's good. But you just have such good sellers above you that, and you have this rejection area at 350, that if you react up here, you just got to be watching maybe a weekly expected move and see if that's able to roll at this point, because that's how you'd want to end up at lower levels to retest back into the zone where we pointed out we look like we are going to ping pong. We said that right here. It built up, showed us the ping pong signal. We ping pong, right? So it's going to be difficult, but one thing here is you're positive. So if this curls up on the 2 hour, I don't necessarily want to be like shorting the damn thing because Tesla's crazy. And if it goes like this, that value of that option can get rough. So we're watching Tesla very carefully. The 30-minute chart is suggesting some sort of potential divergence here. So it looks like a 2 hour reaction for a retest of 350 or a reaction up to about 330, I'll say 338 would make sense for Tesla. Amazon, big breakout to the upside. Daily chart, can't ignore it. Just screaming. Usually when you do get a confirmation like this, you do continue the move. And we had the 220 point marked off for Amazon. We hit it. So congratulations if you're able to catch that all the way up to those areas with the potential higher low down here. Fantastic stuff. And we've broken out of the zone. So where's the next place this wants to get to? Truly, I see us getting to potentially 229, unless this is a major fake out. So we'll be watching because you do have daily divergence kind of formed here. Not necessarily the strongest at this point on the RSI, but it's still there for the MACD. You can see that the RSI, just another day's worth of big positivity, and you're wiping out that divergence point. But I'd be a little bit cautious with this one. As the 2 hour climbs, it's very likely to get some kind of whipping pullback, some kind of reach down for some buyers. Those buyers would be right in here towards 218. Those buyers would also be right in the center towards 212.57. So we'll be watching those areas for the 2 hour pullback that maybe ends up launching you higher to get to that 229. And then you might want to be watching out for divergence. Look out for reversal signals. If they don't pop up, we continue these moves. But if they do, you got to be a little bit careful. NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA has done great at doing what? Raising the floor, right? We don't necessarily lean towards 115 anymore for a daily pullback. We knew that this thing needed to squeeze. You heard me say multiple times, these things need to squeeze or else they're going to drop. And then boom, we start squeezing. That's fantastic. So what we're noticing now is you have the potential for daily divergence on your MACD. You can curl down, but you have risen that floor to where more around 133 is going to be the area to pay attention for a daily pullback. What does it look like? Are we going to get that daily pullback right away on Monday? It does not look like that at this point. We would need to see a divergence here, which I think is very likely, or some kind of lower high. That would be another scenario. So we haven't seen those things. So, you know, when you do it, it's kind of like, if you don't see those things, then look at the stock like it's going to continue to be irrational for a bit, right? You don't have reversal signals, and take that into consideration. You don't have reversal signals. So what's it not going to do? Well, it's going to be difficult to reverse without reversal signals, and you take kind of like that. 2 hour MACD looks very good, looks very high up. The RSI looks very good. 2 hour pullbacks are welcome here. A 2 hour pullback can look something like this. If you would like, it can just go whoop, and then oh, and then uh-oh. It can be on the cards here, or on the table for NVIDIA. AMD, similar thing, right? Able to break the upside here. So once again, AMD kind of raising that floor. So if you were thinking AMD is going to go down to this 95, which we've been pointing out, now that this is broken, we shouldn't really talk about that as much. We should still talk about this area of 115 for AMD. It hasn't broken through the zone and seen upside, upside, upside like Nvidia has to curl down and go up. So what's going to happen here for AMD? When is this going to happen, or is this going to raise the floor for this to happen? Well, we'll have to look at the 2-hour chart. So if this 2-hour chart does not shape up a lower high or divergence here, right, we pull down to this type of area towards 137, maybe we pull down deeper towards 134, and then we're actually able to curl up. This would be an interesting thing to pay attention to for AMD, because this is touching back into this zone to actually potentially go higher, and then we'll watch out for those reversal signals in the future. You see how we just don't have them, which means we have time to make them, and that's why for AMD, you really want to be watching if you make a lower high or a divergence this week. I would really pay attention to that. Meta is right to our white line, 736. Wow. We did mark this top side of this bar off because that's like the highest I could see it getting, and holy crap, it got there. Meta technically could just pull back into these areas. I still think Meta has the ability to go all the way back down to 642, but we did give you that area where this isn't the exact monthly expected move, but it's pretty much right on it. 700. Very important level. You notice we gap above it. That's huge. That's huge to gap above it. We take away the power of that resistance by gapping above, but we do make daily divergence at the top here. This is something that can be interesting. Maybe this is able to pop its head up. We'll look at the 2-hour chart and say, ooh, does that have divergence? This one, in a way, the daily, I think it's the 4-hour can be your friend. If the 4-hour is able to confirm, I think that means it's really risky at that point. You can get little counter trend moves, but I just think it's too risky if you get a confirmation like this, just straight down on the 4-hour. Now, if we're able to get back in that monthly expected move very quickly, I would be looking for the bounce that then rolls for something like Meta. But the 2-hour chart says we could continue the overall move. We have kind of divergence kind of extended across. That's why it looks better on the 4-hour, and that's why you'd look for confirmation there. But if you really want to say, hey, is this really, really bad for the MACD? No, you just wiped out some points. So can the 2-hour curl down and then curl back up into positive territory? The answer to that would be yes, it can. And then we'll see if we're able to make some kind of divergence or lower high. We have to see how the market even opens up on Monday before we get started on anything here. We do notice for things like Microsoft, it doesn't have the best divergence on the MACD or RSI, so make them on the MACD and RSI. If you're going to see some kind of pullback, we could pull back down into something like 485. And we're going to talk about one other thing at the end of this video, a little bit simpler for the SPY and the Q, so make sure you stick around. But a 2-hour pullback that goes to the upside seems to be very probable here, so just watch out for that. Google in a different boat here. So Google's still trying to potentially test 185.87. Maybe this is how we hold the market up better, as Google starts to perform while some things start to move a little bit more sideways. That's something we will pay attention to. But Google looks like it's trying to break to the upside. The only problem here is you have broken the low, you've reacted up, but you haven't really confirmed completely above this just yet. So I'd just be watching out in case there is some kind of little roll that then needs to go to the upside, right? The 30-minute chart pretty extended here. So if it wanted to scream higher, pull back, then get to that level, that would be very interesting for Google. I'm just going to go over the memers for a second. You need the daily scale to turn up for AMC. This would be a good sign if AMC was able to do it. There's nothing past that you need to really pay attention to besides like, hey, does momentum look good on the daily scale? We'll give you the updated level tomorrow during the live stream if you would like it. 341 has been updated to a different level, but this is a great retest. We're seeing if the daily can come back. The 2-hour isn't necessarily leaning towards that. You look for the 2-hour to reject, and that would be the management for the trade. GME, same scenario, 2-hour curls down. It's not necessarily a good sign, right? I still think that this has potential to do something like this really fast, or it just needs to take off at some point. GME doesn't look as good from the daily MACD standpoint. Its positioning is much deeper. That just tells us, hey, watch out. We could see a lower high from this overall move. Even if a daily move does come, it can be a lower high to go make that right shoulder that could have been. All right, so I just wanted to point those out for GME and AMC. Let me go over volatility, and then I'm going to show you something on the SPY and the Qs that we can pay attention to for an easy area to just sit back if you're wanting to be patient. I can show you those things. We wanted to point out that there is daily divergence forming. It has not confirmed, right? This has not confirmed yet. So what do we need to see here? Well, we potentially want to pay attention to, do we see great reversal signals? We don't right now. Can we create them? That's going to be the question. Do we see some kind of upside move here from volatility that then starts to break down over time, and then we're able to create that divergence later on? This could be a very interesting thing to pay attention to. This is what you want to watch for your MACD. This is what you want to watch for your RSI. Those divergences pop up down here. We can start to talk about reversal, reversal, reversal. Watch out, there is risk here. Those things can fail. We will pay attention to if it is failing and try to notify you. If not on YouTube and we're not live, we do try to notify Patreon. So volatility, the reason that you have to watch for this is daily divergences here that can turn up weekly charts. That means we could see a wave of selling come in, and that's why we're paying attention to markets very, very critically right now. The last thing I wanted to go over as far as what's going on with the SPY is I wanted to go to a daily chart. If you are really, really confused about the market right now, and you're just like, hey, I don't know what's going on, I'm confused, I don't know if I want to risk money here, maybe I want to be patient, I'll give you a great thing to do here at the end of the video. All you need to do is go over to here and turn on your 200 and your 50, and you will see that those are crossing. That is a very likely area when you do cross that you want to test that price. So something that we'll look for is when this does cross, or if it does cross in the next few days, well, we are very likely to come down and test that area where that crossing did take place. So that is a very, very good spot to just keep an eye on. If we start to see some kind of rolling in the market, that would be a great location. And right now, that would be right around 583 to 585. So just be watching. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope that in some way, something here was very helpful to you. I hope that this gives you some clarity on which way or how the market could move this week. We know that we're never 100% right because nothing in the market is 100%. But if we're trading like water and using our skills, we can really put ourselves in a position to be successful. And that's exactly what each and every one of us are trying to do with trading stocks, is just be successful over time. Not be right every single time, but be successful every single time. And that would be a good thing to think about when you're thinking about managing risk, managing a trade, and also position sizing for a trade. Managing risk in all scenarios is a good thing. So thank you guys for paying attention and letting me spiel about some management of risk this week as we get to the monthly expected move. Thank you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday, and I'm out of here because I got to go make ranges for Patreon members. All right, so look for those later today. Peace out.